Hello everybody, welcome to another Malts and Meeples video, and yes, we are just jumping into it straight away because this could be a fairly long video and I already got a tiny bit of a late start for it. I have my old fashioned here, I have a sparkling water as well because I suspect this is going to be a lot of talking. So if you've checked out the previous videos, you know that I've done my top 100 videos of all time, 2024 edition. That wrapped up last week. And I go 10 at a time there. Well, this video, we're going to try and do 100. I'm going to be looking off to the side here to see the game on a list. I don't have slides for all of these because that would have taken a little while to get ready. And let's get started with number 200. At number 200, we have Star Wars trading card game. Now, you might be like, Petter, you already have Star Wars Unlimited on your list. Yeah, no, this is the early 2000s. I want to say basically when the prequel trilogy was coming out, there was a Star Wars trading card game, and I happened to work with somebody who owned a copy of it and owned a bunch of the cards for it and had some decks pre-built. I now own the starter decks myself, but this is a fun, it's again a trading card game, it's a collectible game. You would have opened packs, see what you got. Obviously you're looking for the big characters because they'd have cool powers, but it was an interesting system in that you would roll to see how much kind of energy everybody would get each round. So there'd be a single roll, and you would then spend that energy to put out new troops into 3 different kind of areas of battle, which I found that quite fun, and I actually feel like Star Wars Unlimited uses it as well, granted with 2 of them, but the 3 areas of battle were space, ground, and kind of the named characters, the heroes or the big villains. And it was basically, if you can win to clear out so your opponent doesn't have troops or units in 2 of the 3 areas, you won the game. And the game played really fast. It was certainly swingy because you would roll a die and you might be like, okay, well, both of us get 6 energy this time. Great. We can play out some cards. Or it might be you get 1. Okay, well, put a card face down, put energy on it, and eventually that one might get played. It's just, it's a unique kind of game. I can see that it is a little bit clunky, but I have fun with it. My number 199 is going to be Skyrockets Festivals of Fire from, this one is it? Floodgate Games. There we go. This is a real-time game, kind of. You know that I don't really love real-time games, but this one's about trying to keep fireworks in the air. They're basically sand timers. You have certain objectives, and you go in turn order playing a card. The card will have a couple different colors of fireworks on it. You flip those sand timers. If sand timers run out, then you'll lose. So it is real time, but it's not necessarily the frenetic play immediately, play immediately, play immediately, play immediately, because sometimes you might be like, well, all our sand timers are pretty good right now. The 2 lowest, I want them to get a little bit lower, then I have a card to flip both of them. Then number 98 is going to be a classic game, one of the board games that really kind of launched us into modern board games, and that's going to be Ticket to Ride, game about building train routes across the United States or different areas depending on the map you have. And each, I mean, it's basically set collection and then trying to complete those routes to get points. And I'm not going to talk about that one anymore because I feel like a lot of people have already played it. Number 197 is going to be Patchwork Doodle. This is a little roll and write game where you're building out a quilt and you score points at 3 different phases of the game and basically the largest square you have for the quilt is what you're scoring on. Plus, there are a few special powers and abilities you can use to help fill in areas. Easy to learn game, fun to play, like just as a simple, want a good game for the late night. Number 196 is going to be Titan Race. Titan Race is a racing game, as the name implies. But this is a very chaotic racing game where you are these riders riding on backs of monsters. You're picking up different abilities that you can do. You're dropping traps behind you. You're sliding across ice, going over jumps, and it's basically goofy fun with some dice drafting that determines how far you move, what direction you move. Just that it's a good fun game. Number 195 is going to be Captain Flip. This was a new one to me this year at Gen Con, and I want to play this one more, actually. I want to track down a copy, but basically you are drawing a tile. You see one side of the tile, the side you draw, and there's something on the other side as well. Each tile gives you like a different way you could score, but you have to make the decision on each tile. Do you want to flip it, or do you want to keep it on the side that it is? You keep it on the side that it is, well, then great. Like, you can drop that in the scoring. But if you flip it, you have to leave it on the flip side, and it still has to go onto your ship. So there's just this little bit of push your luck, as well as a little bit of like trying to optimize your scoring with it. Then next one up here, 194. And this one, again, could go higher, I think, the more I play it. But Mission Deep Sea, the crew Mission Deep Sea. This is a cooperative trick-taking game where you are trying to complete various objectives. So it might be, I have to win the Pink 7. That could be the objective. And we have to figure out, as people, how to play it so it works out that way, so I can get the Pink 7. And then they get harder as they go. At 193, we have Quirkle. Quirkle is going to be a game of basically playing out tiles. You can either play out tiles that are the same color and add them to a column or row that connects to something, or you can play out the same shape. But you can never have multiple of the same shape connected together if they're the same color. So if I have a row of 5 stars, and I can't have 2 purple stars on there. Or the same with the color. If I have 5 purple ones, I can't have 2 purple stars part of that group. And you're just trying to complete groups of 6 or place stuff in such a way that you can get some really good scoring out of it. At 192, we have Redwood. Redwood is a photography game where you are spending time going around nature, using templated movement that you're kind of guessing and trying to make work, and then using a lens to see what nature you capture there. It is a fun game. One I actually just got rid of. Well, I did enjoy playing that one. It's loosey-goosey enough with how it works that sometimes it feels like, well, I thought this would work, now it doesn't fit, and I'm kind of screwed for getting a picture that I want. At number 191, so getting through our first 10 here, we have Twilight Inscription. This is the big roll and write game from Fantasy Flight Games, built off of kind of the idea of Twilight Imperium. However, this is really just a space roll and write, collecting resources. There are elements that I think could be done better. I'd love to see them make the voting more impactful. But if they do that, I think it'd be a very good game and could move up way higher on my list. Number 190 is going to be Five Crowns. People are probably more familiar with Phase 10, where you're trying to get sets or runs based off of what phase you're on. Five Crowns is the better version of that. It's a fun, more fun game because you never get out of sync. The game plays in a set amount of rounds. You start out with 3 cards. You need to get a set or a run. 3 cards. That's it. They play that out. Then, as you go higher, you're looking to create sets and runs of more cards. And you can play down, I think, certain groups of them at certain times. So you don't have to play out your whole hand at once. But there obviously is a big advantage to doing that because you're getting rid of points and locking people into the cards that they have in their hand. Then at 189 is one that used to be in my top 100 games, Say Bye to the Villains. It's mainly dropped just because I haven't played it recently. This is a cooperative game where you are samurai and you need to defeat villains. There's an equal number of villains, 2 players, and each villain has certain traits. If you go faster than the villain that you're fighting against, you attack first. And if you do enough damage, you take them out. But you only get 1 hit. So if you don't do enough damage, well, then they get a swing back. And really, you lose because you didn't defeat them. It's a really tough game where you're trying to balance kind of spending the energy to look at the villain's cards while still building up your speed, your attack, your health enough. Because you might just go really slow, but have so much health that you can't be taken out as well. Then at 88, we have Risk Legacy. This is the original Risk Legacy. It was a blast to play. It's Risk. It feels classic. It feels fun. I like the Legacy additions to it. It's just compared to like some other Legacy games, I feel like it's a little bit lighter. And I'm not sure that I really need to revisit it. Though, I'm trying to remember if I do have the next Risk Legacy game. I might. It might be behind me. Yes, I have it. So, I want to play that one, but I'm never going to go back to revisit the original Risk Legacy. Then at 187, we have Root. Root is a woodland creature war game. It is a blast. Everything is asymmetric. It is fun. It's a beast to teach. I used to have everything for it. I might get back the core box at some point in time, but everything is just too much. Too many options. This is kind of a lifestyle game without being like a campaign game, just with the amount that you have to know about your different characters to be able to play it well. And if somebody is a weak link to it, then that really can break down the game. At 186, we have Sea Salt and Paper, actually another one that I just sold. But this was a game basically of collecting cards to create a collection where it's going to score you the most points, the best points, and it has a mechanism in it that I don't love, and I thought the rules were okay. I think the rules needed a rework, and it would have been easier to get to the table and understand and play. But the mechanism I don't like is that you can just call, like, I think I have the most points in my hand, I'm going to call it, and yeah, you can just stop and see what happens. And of course, if you're wrong, then whoops, you lose out on some of that. I wish it had a better, kind of more defined way. That's why it didn't stick in my collection. Next up, we have the Librarians Adventure card game. This is a cooperative card game where you play through some of the episodes and kind of stories of the Librarians. It is a fun game. I've had a fun time with it. It is thematic in terms of if you know that those movies and that show. It left my collection as well just because it's like it was a good experience with a fun theme for me. I just knew that I wasn't going to get it played over other similar types of games. Then at 184, we have Marrying Mr. Darcy. Marrying Mr. Darcy is a game about suiting or trying to be the most proper lady in the world of Pride and Prejudice and end up with the man who's going to give you the most points and hope you don't end up as an old maid. It's a silly, light, kind of fun game. It's a fun theme that everybody can get into, and there certainly is a fair amount of luck to the game, but I enjoy it still, even with that. I wish it could just be a tiny bit faster. That would honestly move it up the list. At 183, we have Metro Runner. This is a new one that I played at Gen Con this year. I enjoyed it a lot. You're going around Rondell, collecting resources and basically using them to fulfill contracts. But what I found really fun is there's this central board to the game. And if, maybe you remember a video game called Pipeworks, where I believe it was Pipeworks, where basically you were trying to get the water to go from here to here, and you were given pipe pieces and you had to put them in place or rotate them to get that flow to go to where it should. That's what this mini game is, and I enjoy that puzzle. I want to play it a few more times just to make sure that it's going to stick for me, like there's enough game there. And I think there is, because different strategies definitely gave different points. I snuck out the win when I played at Gen Con, which was a blast. I just know that I'm probably always going to go for that strategy on the center of the board there. Then, alright, we have 182. We have Twice as Clever, the lowest of the clever games from Wolfgang Warsch. This one I like pretty well. The reason it's just low, it feels like it's more work to get to the combo-y goodness. And in the subsequent ones, I think he's done a better job of making that more upfront and in your face, much like you get in Ganz Clever. But this one still has a really fun puzzle to it, so I enjoy it for that. Number 81 is going to be Pictomania. Pictomania is a game of trying to draw pictures as fast as you can to get people to guess them, and then you're grabbing scoring chips and then guessing who did what. But of course, if you're getting stuff wrong, you're now losing out on some scoring, and it's a good, fun party game. It's actually one, in terms of a drawing party game, it's up there as one of my top ones, and I really need to get a copy of it into my collection. At 180, we have Butterfly. Butterfly is a game with a hedgehog on the front. The hedgehog is trying to capture butterflies, but you're basically in this field, and you can move the hedgehog as far as you want to take a tile. The trick is that you can only rotate. You can't move the hedgehog from its starting position. You can only rotate it a quarter turn, either any direction, and so that limits what you can take. And it's basically set collection, different, like there are bees and honeycomb. Honeycomb and bees don't score you points unless they're paired up together. So just a bunch of different scoring ways. There are butterflies that offer multipliers, all sorts of stuff like that as well in there. It is a fun, very abstract game, but a good time. Then we have at 179 Crisscross. This is a easy roll and write game. I say easy. There is one small thing where you roll 2 dice, and those dice pair together, and you're looking to create on your 5x5 basically matching die faces in columns and rows. And the more columns you have filled in, or the more matching ones you have adjacent to each other in a column, more matching ones you have adjacent to each other in a row, you score both directions. And I really like that. The tricky part is those two die, I tell people to think about them as a domino, because you can rotate them, get them any combination you want, but you can never split them. So it is possible to end up with two open spots that are nowhere near each other at the end of the game, and well, then you're just down 2 symbols. I've also seen somebody do it with 4 symbols, but that's only happened once. 178 is Knights of the Hound Table. This is probably not one that people have heard of, really. But Knights of the Hound Table, you are... I'm trying to figure out how to describe it. Basically, it's a head-to-head battle. You play out 3 hounds. You play out 1 hound for its attack, 1 hound for its defense, and 1 hound for its power. But of course, something that has a great attack, or like a great power on it, you're just always trying to figure out how to use it. It's like, okay, great power, but it also has a really good attack. Which do I want to use it for? But it has no defense, so I don't want to accidentally get like stuck in that, because powers could mess with your plan. And so it's just a goofy little game with a weird theme, but it's fun. It's a fun game of trying to like outthink your opponent. Then we have the Fox and the Forest Duet. This is a 2-player trick-taking game where you are pushing back and forth this fox on a board, and depending on where you go, or who wins the trick, the fox moves towards that person. If you ever go off the board, it starts to cover up spaces on the board and make the board even smaller. And I like that challenge. I like that puzzle of trying to set your opponent, well, the person you're playing with, up to take a trick. Then, okay, let's see, we're at 176. This was not intentional, but we have the Fox Experiment at 176. This is going to be a game about breeding foxes and trying to get certain traits, like fluffier tails, into your gene pool. And so you're creating, like, you start out by drafting foxes, and then that gives you a pool of dice to roll, and then you get a offspring who join kind of that next generation, and you're trying to create kind of that best fox with some other mechanisms working alongside it as well. But it's a fun time. Then at 175, we have 7 Wonders. This is the classic at this point drafting game of building out wonders and trying to build out kind of a tableau, an engine of resources to be able to get your wonders out faster. I don't know that I need to say more about this one too, because a lot of people have played this one already. Cross Clues. This is a party game. Used to be in my top 100 as well. Still really enjoy it. Cross Clues. You have a, say, a 5x5 grid. Rows A, B, C, D, E. Columns 1 through 5. And each row and column has a word assigned to it. You are given a coordinate on there. So it might be A2. A2 could be wood and wind. Okay, wood, wind, oboe. I give that as a clue. But of course, that could match with something else. It could be wind, and there could be a word that's instrument. So maybe I would think, okay, well, I don't want to go oboe because it might be wind instrument. Sure, I could see people thinking that instead. And you're trying to see how many of those that you can get right. Everybody has a coordinates, and when you have a clue ready for yours, give out that clue, and then and then draw another one. And you're just seeing how well you can do overall as a team. Then at 173, we have Paperback. Paperback is a deck building word game. Actually, I enjoy this one a lot. I've played it on the app as well, which is a solid app. But basically, instead of like playing out a hand of cards to, I mean, it's, I guess, like compared to Dominion, where you just play out cards and you're trying to chain them together, get money to get purchases, and grab what you need. Here, you have to play out a word. And that word is going to determine kind of the resources you get to buy additional letters. It is a fun kind of puzzle and helps to know words. Also, just helps to be good at pattern recognition as well. At 172, we have Diced Veggies. This is from Kids Table Board Games. I haven't been saying it for all of them. I don't know all of them off the top of my head, unfortunately. But this one is an order fulfillment game where you are chopping off dice from a block, and you have to take the dice from edge. The fun part about this one is that as you chop and you're grabbing dice, you can never take, I believe it's more than 10 points worth of pips. So that really becomes a puzzle of how do I chop what I want. And sometimes you just look at them and go, well, I'm going to take those 2 5s because I need them to help complete certain recipes. Then at 171, we have the classic King of Tokyo. This is the battle game where you're taking monsters and fighting against each other for supremacy in Tokyo. You can win by points, you can win by knocking out your opponents, and it has the great mechanism that I like where if you are in Tokyo, you can hit everybody else, but everybody else can only hit you. And so when you get hit, you have the decision to make. Do I want to move out of Tokyo? That's going to bring somebody else in there who now potentially could hit everybody. But it's that, are they going to stick around long enough for that? At 170, we have Aquatica. This is kind of an engine building game with a really fun system of sliding cards up to gain kind of resources to be able to buy better cards, to conquer better areas, and add them to your scoring, your treasure pile. It first play, I thought, like, okay, this is fine. Then I played it at 4, and I was like, I have a whole lot more fun with this. I can see good strategy in it. I wish there was just like one more element to it. Certain things like the character cards that you buy, which is kind of a hand management aspect to it, just aren't diverse enough or quite exciting enough. I wish there were some more interesting ones out there. Everything else, though, like the whole sliding puzzle element of it, or not sliding puzzle, but sliding things up to gain resources and like improve your attack or purchase, yeah, that part is phenomenal. I love that. At 169, we have Dragonfire. This is going to be a cooperative deck building game using a system, I would say, similar to, well, I guess similar to Shadowrun Crossfire, which I think is going to be higher on the list. But basically, you're playing different missions, facing off against enemies and battling them, and you can help others as well. It's a potentially risky proposition. It is a tough game, but a fun one to play. Then at 166, we have Stranger Things Upside Down, where you can play through the first 2 seasons of Stranger Things in a cooperative board game. This is a fun cooperative board game as you are trying to, the first game, rescue Mike. And you're pushing, trying to kind of dig through piles of chips, basically expending cards to try and beat that pile of chips in order to reduce the power of the Demogorgon. And it's tough, but it's fun. It reminds me of like a Pandemic type thing. I haven't heard a ton about it since, but I've enjoyed my plays of it since it's come out. And at 167, it's actually a game that I just got back into my collection. It's a solo only game, solo only puzzle game, which is why it had left my collection, but it's been a bit now. Relics of Rajavahara. Relics of Rajavahara is a kind of a sliding puzzle game. It reminds me of stuff like Chip's Challenge, computer game where you're trying to basically grab one particular goal, and however, as you're doing that, you have to make sure that you're sliding everything in such a way that you can position everything where it needs to be, because you can certainly push stuff to the edge and then just have it stuck in a corner for the all of time and have to reset. So it's a fun game there. At 166, we have Ship Shape. It's a smuggler's bounty. This is a unique game that I really enjoy. You are trying to fill up your cargo hold to get the most points possible. However, you're layering on these cards that cover up certain parts of the 4x4 or 3x3 kind of grid that is your hold. And whatever you can see at the end is what you get. And to get those, you are looking at a stack, player count, I believe, stack of them. And everybody tosses in a card as a bid. Highest card wins, gets the top one. But you can see down a little bit too. And so you're trying to be like, okay, well, I don't want the top one. Okay, the second one has those two, but I can't see that third thing on there. Not sure what that is. Will that fit to cover up like the contraband that I don't want to have on there that can cause me to lose points? That's just a unique game and system. At 165, we have Fishing Lessons. This is a button shy game about fishing, and you are basically trying to activate cards. I played it here on Malts and Meeples. It's been a little bit, but basically you are trying to complete some fishing challenge, and to do that you're having to flip cards over, and you're trying to just get the right combination of cards flipped in the right way to win. Then at 164 we have Quicks. Quicks is a little roll and write game where you are filling out 4 columns. The more you have filled in those 4 columns, the more points you're going to get. You can either expend, well, you spend either, it's always 2 dice, I believe. Is it? Yes. It's always 2 dice, and you're going from 2 to 12. Or 12 to 2. And you're just trying to get as many filled in as possible, because you're always going left to right. You can never go back to fill in something that you skipped over. So a good simple roll and write that's, yeah, just a good time. Then at 163 we have The Lost Expedition. The Lost Expedition is going to be a game where you are playing out cards. Everybody is playing out cards that basically create your path for how you're going to walk during a day, and you're gaining resources and spending resources basically to try and survive and to be able to progress far enough to get to the lost city of Z, which will be the winning condition at the end of the game. But it has a fun twist to it in that everybody has a hand of cards. You can't tell anybody what's in your hand, but you're working together cooperatively. So in the daytime, you play out those cards, and those cards have numbers. They go in numerical order. So as you play out a card, you slot it in correctly to numerical order, so you can kind of strategize that way. But then in the evening, you take a hike as well, and that goes in whatever order those cards are played out in. So it goes in turn order to create kind of that walk, that hike for the evening. And so both ways, you're really having to think about strategy as to, okay, we can potentially skip over this card. Are we going to want to do this? Or we can swap 2 cards and then potentially skip over another card. based off of swapping them. It is fun system. Then at 162 we have Mafiosi. This is a game about Puma Mafia, kind of, but it's a fun system of you play cards. If you are the person in the middle, you win, basically. And then if you win, you're placing these cards onto a track. And you decide where you want to place it, because they're going to go in numerical order on that track, which means if you play something, it could get bumped down a ways, and you're going to get fewer and fewer points as it gets bumped down. And in fact, the more times it gets bumped, the more negative points you're picking up for that as well. It is a really, just kind of light, fun, enjoyable game. Speaking of that, we also have Canvas. Canvas is a game of trying to create the best picture, basically the best piece of artwork that's going to give you symbols. It's just that those symbols are on transparent cards, so you're trying to layer 3 transparent cards to create the best picture possible to get points, or maybe you just want to create the best artwork possible for those as well. Then at 160 we have Scout. I'm not sure I'm going to get through all of them today. This might be a two-parter here. But 160 we have Scout, a shedding game where you have a hand of cards, but you can't rearrange that hand of cards. It has to stay in the order it was dealt to you. But before you decide what order that was, you can flip that hand over either way, and the numbers are different on either side. And you're basically trying to shed cards out of there, but you have to beat the run or the pair or the set of cards that was played out there with something bigger than that. It is a really good system. Then when you can't do that, you take one of the cards from the existing set or pair and you slot it where you want into your hand. So sometimes it's like, okay, I'm fine not being able to beat this because this gives me now a run of 5, and that's going to really mess with everybody else later on because I want to empty out my hand of cards first. At 159 we have Fleet the Dice game. This is a big roll and write game. Honestly, I feel like it should be higher, but that's why I do this huge list, is there are so many games that I love that I want to talk about. Fleet the Dice game, like I said, big roll and write game about launching ships, basically creating a fishing empire. And it works really well solo as well, and the app for it is solid as well. So definitely check that out if you're a fan of big roll and write games. 158 we have Downforce. Downforce is a racing betting game. Everybody owns a car, potentially. I think everybody does. But it's honestly more about the betting. You get some money for if your car finishes first and second and third, but you're also betting on who you think is going to win 3 different times along the raceway. And I like how the cars move because, well, I might own the orange car and want that to win. Obviously, it's going to give me more money, but every card I play out probably has multiple different colors on it, and the cars move in the order of the colors on the card, which means sometimes you can strategically create bottlenecks and stuff like that to open up the race, or if I've bet on the orange car to win already and fell behind, now I can create a bottleneck so the orange car has a chance to catch up. Then at 157 we have Quacks at Quedlinburg. This is a deck or bag building game of pulling out chips, ingredients for a quack potion to heal some malady, and you're trying to make the best one that's going to give you the most points as well as then purchase power with an element to push your luck so that you don't bust as well, because then you have to make the choice: do you want points or do you want that purchase power? At 156 we have the Isle of Cats. This is a game that I enjoy quite well. There's a drafting element to this game as you draft cards that will give you things like baskets, which will allow you to rescue more cats. but you also have to draft scoring opportunities that you can do as well, both personally and globally in there. And then you go around and everybody's picking up cats off of this island, and you're placing them on your ships, and there's different scoring available on the ships as well. There's a bunch going on in this game, but I find it to be quite fun. At 155, we have Parade. Parade is this is going to split into two. I might actually do the second half tomorrow afternoon or Friday afternoon, evening. We'll have to see. Actually, it might be Friday evening before we do our Baldur's Gate 3 stream. But at 155, like I said, we have Parade. We're going to go through 151 here. Parade is a game of you're collecting cards, but you only collect them based off of if they are, I believe it's either the same color or higher. No, lower than the card that you played out. But you're looking and you're skipping over, you're only dealing with certain cards based off of the number you played as well. And you score the points of the number on the card unless you have the most of that color, in which case you're only scoring 1 point per card, which works quite well. It's a fun game. At 154, we have Orchard, a 9-card solitaire game. I've played this one on stream. This is a game about trying to grow the most fruit possible, and you're doing that by overlapping cards to get the same colored types of fruit to overlap each other, and as you do that, that bumps up the die on those fruit to give you more, fruit. 153, another solo game. This is going to be Black Sonata. Black Sonata is, it's an interesting thing because it's a kind of hidden movement game where the hidden movement is programmed, and you are trying to ascertain who kind of the lady in black in Shakespearean lore is, and yeah, it works surprisingly well, and you're pushing to try and be able to solve that before time runs out. At 152, we have Hero Realms. Hero Realms is a deck building head-to-head battling game. Again, this one has an app. It's great. I love this game as a deck builder because of how quickly kind of it scales and it bumps up faster, and you're dealing with like more power. I like the fact that it's not a long deck building game. And then finally at 151, yeah, I gotta stop now, otherwise I will have no voice left by the end of this. We have Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering, the biggest trading card game out there. I enjoy it a lot. I just can't dive back into it because it's a money sink. But it is such a good game, head-to-head battling. Or I prefer multiplayer Commander. That's just the system that I prefer. It offers a lot of fun deck construction to go with that game. But with that, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you had fun with 200 through 51. I'll get the title updated probably tomorrow. But let me know which one of these is your favorite on the list and which one you would like to try. Leave that down in the comment section below. But with that, bottoms up. Sorry, I forgot some stuff. If you want to check out more content, obviously we have all the videos that have been done previously for the top 100 games of all time, but also I do board game or video game plays on Monday nights, planning to, in the new year, start a new campaign game on Monday nights, and then on Friday nights at 9 p.m. Central, my wife and I are playing through Baldur's Gate 3. You can also find kind of like my written articles on stuff, board games, manga, movies, whatever it might be, over on nerdologist.com. The link for that should be in the description below. And if you enjoy Marvel content, I have a podcast called 10 Minute Marvel. You can find that here on YouTube by searching for 10 Minute Marvel or wherever you get your friendly neighborhood podcasts from. Okay, now, bottoms up.